Hello everyone, this is VGMaster2. Sorry, no witty comment at the beginning of the video, but I have something that I personally think is better. New visuals! That's right, I'm a human now. Very fitting, since I obviously like more things in MLP, and having a pony OC in every video would have been weird. But anyways, if you look at the title of the video before clicking on it, which I hope you did, you would know that today I'm going to be talking about the series I like. 13 series to be exact. Yeah, if you thought it was a miracle for a person to like 2 series at one time, here's a guy who likes 13. Now these series are a mix between video games and TV series, which is why this is called 13 series and not 13 video game series. And yeah, if you couldn't tell, this is a giant video where the entire internet gets to learn basically almost everything about me, even though 9/10 of you probably don't care. Congratulations! Now that that's said, before we get into the list, it's time for honorable mentions. They're basically series that I like, but I'm not as invested in them as the ones actually on this list, which are in no particular order, just numbered for convenience. Honorable mentions: Star Wars, Dinosaur King, Bakugan, Fossil Fighters, Sonic the Hedgehog, Monster Hunter, The Stanley Parable, Parappa the Rapper, Slime Rancher, Splatoon, and Skylanders. Yeah, the honorable mentions list is almost as long as the actual list. Now for my list, I'm going to be talking about 3 things in each entry: a basic overview of the series, how I got into it, and why I like it. Also, there will be some spoilers, so if you absolutely hate spoilers, you can leave now. But I digress. Without further ado, this fangirl talks about my 13 favorite series. 13. Pony Island. This is the newest series I got into, and I wanted to make it an honorable mention, but I found myself coming back to it frequently, so I gave in and gave it this spot. What is it, you may not be asking? Well, time for the basic overview. Despite what it sounds like, Pony Island is not an MLP fan game made by bronies. It is its own, completely separate thing. Pony Island is actually a very meta puzzle indie game made by Daniel Mullen, in which you are a person apparently named Theodore who fought and was killed in the Crusades and is stuck in limbo. And that limbo is an arcade game made by Satan called Pony Island. With the guidance of a mysterious character named Hopeless Soul, you go around the files of the game, attempting to destroy them so you and thousands of other trapped souls can be freed. That being said, how did I get into it? Well, funny story. Recently, I subscribed to Rabid Luigi, but before I did, I watched a few of his countdown videos. One of his most recent countdowns was Top 5 Surprisingly Dark Games, and number 5 was Pony Island. Do you see where this is going? If not, it's okay. I will now explain. After having watched the video for the second or third time, not in a row, I got curious. So I typed Pony Island in the YouTube search bar and proceeded to watch Let's Plays of the game, starting with the GT Live Let's Play. After watching lots of Let's Plays on it, like I said earlier, I gave in and put it on the list. But why do I like it? The story of Pony Island is just so interesting and mysterious. You start the game basically not knowing anything, and you have to learn as you go along. So, it sounds campy, but if you watch someone play the game, but you haven't played it yourself, you're learning with the person playing. I actually have not played Pony Island for myself, if you couldn't tell. I just spoiled myself to the entire game, and I just really like it. Also Louie. Louie is a beautiful creature. 12. Star Fox. Basic overview. If you don't know the story of Star Fox, I have no idea where you've been. I mean, I wasn't even born when the first Star Fox game came out, and even I know at least something about it. But I digress. So, some number of years ago, Andros was a scientist who worked for Canarian Army leader General Pepper. After something that I can't remember happened, Andros was banished to another planet called Venom. Eventually, Andros created an army and attacked Corneria. 3 people went to go stop him: a fox named James McCloud, a rabbit named Peppy Hare, and a pig named Pigma Dengar. James and Peppy were friends, but Pigma was just a volunteer. Or so they thought. But in actuality, Pigma was working for Andros the entire time, and in their battle with Andros, he betrayed James and Peppy. Peppy only barely made it out alive, but James ended up getting killed. Sometime later, Andros became a threat again, and this time James's son, Fox McCloud, started up the team again with his two friends, a falcon or pheasant named Falco Lombardi, and a frog named Flippy Toad. Peppy here also joins the team, which, if you somehow didn't realize by now, is called Star Fox. Long story short, they kill Andros, go and kill Andros again, kill Andros a third time, and recruit a blue fox named Crystal by saving her in a world inhabited by dinosaurs, kill some robot bugs, and we just don't talk about Star Fox Command now, do we? Oh yeah, and kill Andros 2 more times. So, how did I get into it? Good question. I don't remember. When I said that these don't have a particular order, yeah, well, I kinda lied. Most of these series, except for 5 through 1, are in order of when I got into them, but Star Fox is kind of another exception. I was first introduced to Star Fox in Super Smash Bros. It was there when I learned that Falco existed, and I liked him. Eventually, I began to learn about Star Fox, but never really got into it. That is until Star Fox Zero came out, and I kinda really liked that game, so this series is on the list. Why do I like it? Honestly, I don't know. I'm pretty sure it has something to do with Falco not only being in Smash Bros, but also being the best character in Star Fox, and also I have a fanfiction crossover with it in Pokemon, so that's the thing. But before you say I haven't played it, that is a lie. I've bought and played Star Fox 64 3D and beat it multiple times. Still contemplating getting Star Fox Zero. 11. Gravity Falls. First TV show on the list. Basic overview. I actually don't know everything about the story of Gravity Falls. More on that later, but I'm gonna tell you what I do know. The show is about twins Dipper and Mabel Pines, who, for the summer, go to this place called Gravity Falls to stay with their Uncle Stan, who runs a place called the Mystery Shack. During his time in Gravity Falls, Dipper finds a journal that talks about the many different strange things there are. The beginning of the series is kind of like a Monster of the Week show, but as it goes on, we learn more and more about Gravity Falls. Eventually, we meet the main villain, Bill Cipher, who is literally that floating eye on the dollar bill, just painted yellow and given arms, legs, a top hat, a bow, and a cane. He's kind of like Discord, only Bill is actually threatening and actually attempts to destroy Gravity Falls to get what he wants. Near the end of the series, we're introduced to a new character, Stanford Pine, the twin brother of Grunkle Stan and the author of all 3 journals. It was theorized that Grunkle Stan, aka Stan Lee, had a twin brother, but when it was confirmed, it was one of those moments when the internet just completely exploded. And it was beautiful. Stanford, or Ford, or Cave Johnson, was accidentally sent to another dimension for around 30 years. Ford was the original owner of the Mystery Shack, and ever since he was sent away, Stanley took over, since it was kind of his fault that Ford got sent to the other dimension in the first place. Skipping to the finale, Dipper and Mabel get into an argument because the summer is coming to a close and Dipper is thinking about staying with Ford, which frankly, Mabel doesn't like. So Mabel runs away, accidentally taking something called the Rift with her, and Bill, disguised as one of the people Mabel knows, tricks her into giving him the Rift, and thus begins the apocalypse. Or Weirdmageddon, you could say. Obviously, Dipper, Ford, and Stanley find out, and Dipper and Ford go to try and stop Bill. They fail miserably, and Ford gets captured. Dipper then finds out that Mabel is trapped in a giant bubble, and he and the minor characters, Wendy and Sue, go in to find and rescue her. They find her, but it turns out that Mabel is happy there and does not want to leave, essentially implying that she does not want to grow up. However, Dipper manages to convince her to leave, and everyone returns to the Mystery Shack to find all the survivors staying there, with Grunkle Stan as their leader. Dipper and Mabel tell them they have to get Ford back and defeat Bill, and that leads to everyone working together to make a giant robot made out of the Mystery Shack and confront Bill at his giant floating pyramid. Dipper and Mabel rescue Ford and everyone else, and they attempt to defeat Bill by creating a circle containing people in Gravity Falls that Ford saw in a cave, so yes, basically a prophecy. This fails, however, because Stan and Ford get into a petty fight, and Bill traps everyone except for Dipper, Mabel, Stan, and Ford. Eventually, they do defeat Bill, but to do this, Stan and Ford switch clothing and convince Bill to go into Stan's mind, where he was shot with a memory-destroying ray, and Stan lost all his memories in the process. But it's okay, because in the last few minutes, Stan's memory comes back and everyone gets their happy ending. How did I get into it? Well, I knew the show existed for a while, and I never watched it, but one night I was hanging out at a friend's house with a few other people when, wouldn't you know it, the finale of Gravity Falls was premiering that night. So I ended up watching parts 2 and 3 with some of my friends who were already fans, which means, that's right, the first episode I saw was the finale. I know, it's terrible, but hey, it got me intrigued in the series. Why do I like it? I don't know, I found it interesting, and I was forced to watch the finale, so... 10. Yandere Simulator. Basic overview. Well, the game isn't actually finished yet, but the debug sandbox build is free to download. But Yandere Simulator is to be a stealth game where you play as Ayano Aishi, who has a crush on her senpai and has to eliminate one other person who has a crush on senpai every week for 10 weeks. There are planned to be 15 elimination methods in the game, a lot of them ending in murder. While in the build, it's pretty easy to get away with murder, in the final game, it won't be very easy. How did I get into it? Simple answer, YouTube videos. Mostly Cub Scouts, and if you like Yandere Simulator and haven't subscribed to him, you should seriously do that. He's amazing. But yeah, I haven't played the game whatsoever. Why do I like it? Despite me having not played it, the game still looks really good and really promising, especially for a debug game made by only one person aside from countless volunteers. I would download the game, but I don't want to waste the space on my computer for a game I really wouldn't put a lot of time into. 9. Fire Emblem. Basic overview. That's really complicated because a good quarter of the games have never been released in America, and despite being one big series, not all the games are connected to each other. The most basically you could describe the series is, you're a character living in a medieval world that you end up having to save with a bunch of other people you recruited along the way. How did I get into it? Well, I had Fire Emblem Awakening for quite a while when Corrin was announced for Smash Bros. And Fire Emblem Fates was coming out. I got intrigued by Corrin's character and began to like Fire Emblem to the point of putting it on this list. Why do I like it? Well, I played it and it was fun, and Corrin is pretty cool. 8. Undertale. Yes, Undertale. Basic overview. Undertale is a computer indie game made by Toby Fox about a human named Frisk, who I think is a girl, so I will refer to her as such, who falls down a hole into a kingdom of monsters, who were banished there after a war 100 years ago. The game is Frisk's journey to get through the monster kingdom and get back home, meeting an apparently wonderful cast of characters who, if you haven't guessed, are all monsters. Along the way, Frisk battles monsters which you can kill none of them, kill all of them, or anything in between. How did I get into it? One day in late 2015, I was on the channel page of Proto Mario, a Pokemon theorist. I was trying to find a video of his, but I couldn't find it, and I went back to the main page where I noticed he had a theory on Undertale, being, is Sans actually human? I watched it, and in the same fashion as with Pony Island, I got intrigued and spoiled the entire game for myself. Yep, you all heard that right. And to the day of this video's upload, I have not played Undertale at all. Why do I like it? Well, technically, I don't like it. Instead, I enjoy Sans' character. You could say I Sans responsibly. Aside from that, I also just enjoy exploiting all of the characters and putting them into my fanfiction. And the music's amazing. 7. Yokai Watch. Basic overview. Yokai Watch the game is about either a boy or girl who receives a device that enables them to see yokai, who are essentially ghosts that haunt people in many different ways. Throughout the entire game, your task is to help your friends with their yokai problems, all the while befriending and battling over 200 different yokai. Does that remind you of any other series? Well, it shouldn't. The anime is basically this concept, only it centers on the boy, Nate, and the girl, Katie, only comes in much later in either late Japanese Season 1 or Japanese Season 2. I say Japanese because Season 2 in America starts at episode 27. How did I get into it? Well, for some time, I was completely against Yokai Watch, like most fans of a certain other series, and I even said that it was riding the coattails of that other series' success. This, I later found out, was completely untrue. I eventually came across the Yokai Watch anime and saw the first episode. I fell in love with the mascot of the series, Jibanyan, and I swore I wouldn't continue watching the anime until I bought and played the game. So that's exactly what I did, and I still love it. Why do I like it? Well, like I said, it's mostly thanks to episode 1 Jibanyan. He was so cute and so interesting that I fell in love and got into the series. When I bought the game, I found it really enjoyable, and it certainly kept me busy during the Great Pokemon hiatus, which I must admit was a great plan by level 5. 6. Steven Universe. Basic overview. The most basic I can get with this is, it's a show about a boy named Steven Universe, who is half human and half gem, which is an alien race. The series is basically his adventures with the other gems, the crystal gems, Pearl, Amethyst, and Garnet. I'm not going to spoil anything about it, because it's a really good show, and you should see it for yourself. How did I get into it? I don't exactly know the specifics of how I got into the series. All I know is that I was aware of its existence for quite some time, but I only really got into it after watching reaction videos to the episodes online in mid-2015. Why do I like it? Steven Universe is a really well-made show, and it's really interesting and really entertaining. When the series starts, you and Steven only know a very limited amount of things about the gems, but as the series goes on, more things are revealed. You're essentially learning with the main character, and that's really cool. 5. Five Nights at Freddy's. Yep, here it is. Hey, you knew this was going to be on the list. Basic overview. In its most basic form, you are a guy who is trying to protect himself from animatronics that are trying to kill you, that, depending on a game, takes place in a pizzeria, and also depending on the game, may or may not have security cameras. Also, it's a survival horror game, so that's good to know. How did I get into it? Back in late 2014, before the second game came out, one of my friends forced me to read the review of the first game, even though I very much disliked everything to do with horror. But I read it, and after that I got curious, so I looked up what the animatronics looked like and drew them all, albeit terribly. After that, I took a break from the series, mainly because I thought it was going to give me nightmares, but eventually I came back to the series and I've loved it ever since. Why do I like it? It was interesting, and the story and animatronics were cool. Also, Foxy is best robot. 4. Digimon. What? You like Digimon? But Digimon is pretty much non-existent. Yeah, and whose fault is that? Basic overview. Pretty much the basic premise of Yokai Watch, but replace Yokai with Digimon and befriend with Capture. How did I get into it? It's actually a funny story, at least funny to me. Years ago, my best friend told me about Digimon and that she didn't like it. So I looked up the first episodes of the first season of the anime on YouTube, and while she still didn't like it, I actually kind of did. Why do I like it? Honestly, I can't remember why I started to like it. I just liked the anime and played some of the games. Despite that, this is the series I know the least about, and it certainly doesn't help that as of now, most of the series is Japan exclusive. 3. Pokemon. Not only do you like Yokai Watch and Digimon, but you like Yokai Watch, Digimon, and Pokemon? How is that possible? Gee, I have no idea how anyone could like multiple series with the same basic premise. Speaking of, basic overview. Like I just said, same basic premise as Digimon and Yokai Watch. Why do you think so many people hate them? How did I get into it? Well, when I was young, the friend that helped me get into Digimon was pretty obsessed with Pokemon and would try to get me into the series, even going as far to entice me with dinosaur Pokemon, since I was obsessed with dinosaurs when I was little. The funny thing is, none of that worked, and instead, I got into Pokemon after watching an episode from the Generation 2 anime back in 2009. But even back then, I always despised Ash, and I've always loved the series ever since, until Game Freak started pulling things out of their ass with Generation 7, but that's a video for another day. Why do I like it? I don't really remember anymore, honestly, but I do know that I'm gonna try to put shiny hunting videos up. They're gonna be filmed on an old iPhone, but if it works, it works. 2. My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic. If you didn't know I liked this series, what are you doing here? Basic overview. Twilight Sparkle and her 5 friends have adventures in their world of Equestria and learn life lessons even though they're most likely adults. How did I get into it? Well, I actually grew up with G3, so for a while I really liked that and thought really poorly of G4. But all my friends actually liked the show, so I checked it out and liked it. Now I'm the only one who still does. Why do I like it? Well, it's a good show with alright characters. At least it was until season 4, but that's also a video for another day. Finally, 1. Super Smash Bros. Basic overview. Characters from different Nintendo series get together and kick the shit out of each other. How did I get into it? Well, the same friend who got me into Pokemon had Brawl, and I eventually got into it too, after I became terrified of the Challenger approaching alarm. Why do I like it? It has my favorite video game characters, and it's an easy-to-play fighting game. It's pretty much perfect. Well, that was my 13 favorite series. I wish I could say that's the end, but it's not. There are a lot of problems I have with some of the fandoms of these series, so stay tuned for part 2, My Favorite Series Rants. It's a working title. But anyway, if you liked the video, please give it a like. If you want to see more, go ahead and subscribe. It would be appreciated. My last video will be in the description, as well as the last video on this subject, which is practically impossible in this case. I'm VGMaster2, and I hope to see you next time. Hello everybody, this is VGMaster2, back for the credits. These are gonna be different since I already told you to like and subscribe, but that's okay because I have something else to tell you guys. In the many months that it took to make this video, which it shouldn't have taken that long and I'm sorry about that, but anyway, I got into 2 new series. One of them is Star Wars, which means it did get promoted, and the other is Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, which in all honesty isn't because I like the episodes. I haven't even fully watched any of them. I just adore Manny, or Doi, or whatever you want to call him. I don't plan to review anything in these series in the near future, but it's not impossible. Anyway, like I said before, I'm VGMaster2, and I hope to see you next time.